Hello everyone. Quick note on this current Mercury retrograde happening one day after the solar eclipse. Mercury always corresponds to how we are intellectually organizing reality. With an open mind, with curiosity, there's always a possibility through every experience, every conversation, to hear something we've never heard before, to hear thoughts we've never thought. And we add that to the existing intellectual framework in our mind, and we expand upon our logical understanding of reality. Our curiosity, our openness, our inquiry, our questions, if we're open-minded and really willing to learn, will be the keys that unlock and reveal more experience, more understanding, more knowledge about life. And really, there are infinite data points, potentially infinite number of things that we can learn. It's our questions that make us available to the infinite realm of possible data that is out there. Mercury retrograde in Taurus is really pushing us to not get comfortable with our existing logical formulations. It can be very tempting to say, I know what I know. This is how things are. There can be a mental stubbornness and an unwillingness to question. But we have to be willing to look at, am I focusing more on comfort and the known security to the sacrifice of life? Am I holding on to the clutter of my worldview and how I've organized reality in my mind? This is where everything goes and where it all comes from. This is what I'm doing. It all fits logically to the sacrifice, to the detriment of something more joyful and meaningful. Mercury in Taurus retrograde really asks us to simplify and to get quiet, to cultivate more of a contemplative mindset that slows down and really asks, what's truly meaningful? What do I really value? What really brings life? What really brings joy? What's most important? And it always speaks to a quality of simplification. But we have to be willing to ask questions that will take us outside of the worldview that we currently have. Otherwise, our questions will subconsciously keep us from learning anything new. So there has to be a willingness to change, a willingness to see ourselves in life and learn something new, to appreciate there must be more to this picture than I currently grasp. And Mercury stationing retrograde very close to Uranus says, indeed there is. There's a much broader long-term view, a greater archetypal unfolding that the linear local mind may not be able to grasp and understand so well. One thing about Mercury and Uranus is they both correspond to memory. Mercury is short-term memory, and it's actually very subjective and limited. The things that we remember, that we consciously recall, is actually a matter of selective recall. We're taking the potentially infinite data points of life, and we're saying, here's this thing that I remember and that thing, and it's very much filtered through our personal lens. And usually the things that we see and perceive and recall and remember are really specific to the reasons for why we are remembering and perceiving them in the first place. And so someone else will have a very different memory and perception and experience and a recall of the same experiences, because we all have a different soul program. And we're all going to be interested and drawn to and connected to different data points, potentially infinite data points. We're going to think completely different things because we all have our own unique lens and path of realization. Uranus, on the other hand, corresponds to what we can call long-term memory. So Uranus doesn't identify, this was a chain and a tree and it was light and there was some shadow and your beard was there and there were some branches and green behind you and this thing was dangling above your head. That's all very Mercury, and you can go on forever. I mean, you can talk for an hour about the different shades of color and how it's reflecting on my hair. Uranus is pure observation, and it's not filtering through the local linear mind that's giving everything a name and classification. So when you bring Mercury in Taurus, which again can kind of be this cloistered, I got what I got, I know what I know, don't bother me kind of archetype, stationing retrograde right next to Uranus, it's like there's this much vaster reality that is greater than, and I don't know if greater is the right word, it's purer in its perceptions than Mercury on its own. It's just what is before a story. It's the algorithm of life. when you look at everything as it is, you're kind of zooming far back enough where you actually begin to perceive the fractal nature of reality, the algorithm of life, the intelligence of creative design. In our lives, outside of our lives, individually, collectively. The intelligence of creation, that's Uranus. We begin to see the greater patterns that are unfolding within and without. This is what we apprehend and begin to perceive when we're not focusing on all the particulars, which are just ways of dissecting the oneness and then trying to put it back together to make it all make sense. So this can feel stressful, like there's a significant schism in our plans or where it's going. And I would say the marker of this Mercury retrograde so close to Uranus right after this powerful solar eclipse is this feels insecure. I don't have an answer for where this is going. I have not yet gotten to a point where I can logically formulate and order all of this in my mind. So we can feel insecure and destabilized by this because what's unfolding right now may not fit into the framework of logic. And remember too that logic can be insane. Like anything can be explained logically. It's kind of fun to just play that game, you know, like I'm wearing a black shirt and it's windy, and we can collect enough data and observe that, you know, there's a correlation between wearing a black shirt and wind. It's just a matter of wherever the mind wants to go. You know, you looked at me this way, it's because of what I was eating, and it reminded you of this time when I was eating this thing, and it's like the mind can make all kinds of associations, one leading to another, that seem rational. They fit, it's logic, but it's totally insane. And so in a way, Uranus is the higher mind, objective reality, shattering whatever formulations we have. And so I think a really wonderful invitation and intention for this Mercury retrograde time is cultivating a ground of quiet and peace and contemplative inquiry, right? Asking the questions that kind of take us out of the isolation of our mental bubble to expand into a broader view. And the archetype of relaxation itself also resonates with trust and allowance. I'm relaxed and I'm watching with curiosity, not grasping for an answer or a conclusion. So also staying undefended, curious and open-minded and peaceful. This is a great time for poetry, for art, for music, for embodiment, for ways of bypassing the known frameworks of thought and accessing something that arises on its own according to the intelligent unfolding of life itself through, within, and without you and me and us. And this Mercury retrograde cycle is going to be a powerful one. It's basically beginning its journey close to Uranus, and it's going to station direct in a few weeks within 4 or 5 degrees in a square to Pluto in Aquarius. So there's a lot of reworking happening now. It's helpful to appreciate that and to just have that perspective as we move along. And this can be, even if there's a sense of insecurity and we are not able to fit what's unfolding within the framework of the known, to know that relaxation and peace and observer mind is absolutely safe and appropriate at this time. I was hoping this would be like a 1-minute shorty, but it ended up being a longer one. So thank you all so much for watching. One thing, I actually write newsletters very frequently. Sometimes I'll write a newsletter on certain topics, and I'll also do a video. Sometimes I won't do a video. Sometimes I'll do a video and no newsletter. I actually wrote a nice article on Mercury itself and Mercury in Taurus when Mercury entered Taurus a couple weeks ago. So if you'd like to access that, please feel free to email me or write that in the description below. And if you want to receive my newsletters, where I often articulate many of these teachings and insights, often sometimes new lenses or angles or perspectives, you can sign up for that in the description below.